Hi there, I'm Leah, and welcome to the House of Hormones podcast.
At what point do you tell a girl a park's not just for play? At night time, stay away. There's danger lurking all around. And round about dusk, the rustles in the bushes might be home to something much more menacing than bushy-tailed creatures that are out to steal your crisps. The risks of a shortcut. I bet you Uber's kept a flow out of women's pockets, makes its profits as the cons of walking home alone far outweighs the pros. And does she know that she'll pay for a taxi to avoid getting murdered by a stranger, then spend the entire journey aware of the danger that this might be the stranger who will finally murder her? If I had a pound for all the pounds lost due to the cost of having to consider getting home without accostation, I still wouldn't earn the same as men. But then again, the system's rigged to constantly remind us our beauty is behind us, and so we must invest in lotions and potions the extent of the ocean to maintain a sense of relevance. I'm relatively sure if I'd have saved all the money that promised flatter tummies or younger skin or looking thin or better hair or buying uncomfortable underwear for him, for him, for him, I'd be halfway to a mortgage. But more than that, I'd have a sense of power back. They profit off our lack, you see. Attack appearance constantly, confine us to the binary of slut or saint we can't escape, but both are tainted. We're well acquainted with the shame, born into a losing game. And it's the same with contraception. Sex is no exception. We're expected to bear the burden or else bear a birth that we never expected, hadn't projected for. And if we're lucky enough to get the pill for free, the bill will be floated by our bloated bodies, and it could cost us anything from mood swings and low sex drive to blood clots and higher rates of suicidal thoughts and depression. It's giving the impression that we accept this as par for the course of womanhood, but it is understood that we would never expect this for a man. And who would trust them anyway? So we'll pay more to conform to societal norms, even down to spending more on our school uniforms. 12% more for a girl's blazer, not to mention on tampons and razors. It's crazy, but so normalized that it used to not faze me. Sometimes I wonder who I'd be if I existed just for me, if my entire existence hadn't consisted of persistently viewing myself through a male's gaze, if the haze lifted and I could wear whatever I want without consequence, and yet I'm well aware of the hypocrisy of getting older. I'm well aware that not too far from now, their looks I once despised, I'll begin to crave. It's exposing in their light, but so much colder in their shade. If a woman falls in a forest and there's no man there to save her, can she even say she lived at all? I dread the moment I might feel invisible, where my aging body is less considerable. No wonder people are getting surgery to feel less fucking miserable. Do you know how it feels to hover above yourself, hyper aware, the left foot in the present, the right not really there because it's running away with itself, preparing itself for what could possibly go wrong because it has gone wrong? I'm tired of constant vigilance. I'm tired of constant vigils. They seem to be rising without uprising, and yet we act surprised every time another woman gets killed. Don't be too nice, it'll get you killed. Don't be so rude, it'll get you killed. Socialized into a politeness that still gets us killed. They rap bitch at us, then within the same breath they complain they're not getting enough respect. And it's reflected in real life. It's reflected in banter with the guys. It's reflected in the wage gap, the thigh gap, the orgasm gap, the fact that victims are rarely believed, the fact that justice is barely achieved, the fact that it costs us so much more to just be. So, tell me, because I want to hear what you have to say for it. At what point do you tell a girl her life is only worth what she is able to pay for it?
Oh my goodness. I can't. Caitlin O'Ryan, thank you so much for coming on our pod today. I can't listen to this poem without welling. And every single time, and trust me, I've watched it so many times on your Instagram. Every single time a different line really hits me. What inspired you to write this poem? Like, was there a moment?
Yeah, thank you
Did you
so
write?
much, by the way. I'm very happy to be here. But yeah, gosh, I don't know. I think it was a lot of various things that kind of came together. Like I've kind of spoken about when Sarah Everard, was taken, and um she was taken just kind of around the corner from me. Like, I lived quite close. And it was the first time that it fully hit me that like it could have been me or like one of my friends, and same age bracket and stuff like that, and it really stayed with me. And then obviously so many other women, you know who this happens to all the time. And I moved house not long afterwards, and I remember sitting in my bedroom and looking out, and there's a park opposite me, and just like watching kids play. And I don't know whether I was like I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that, so I don't know whether I was listening to something like that in the background at the same time. But I just remember looking out at this park and thinking, God, those kids look so free. Like, at what point does that stop? At what point are they too scared to go out after dark? Or, you know, and the messaging that women receive in comparison to young boys as well, of that, like, having to be hyper vigilant suddenly. And I think, I can't remember my parents sitting me down and telling me this. But at some point it's been like drip fed into my psyche that, like, you do have to be more hyper vigilant as a woman. Um, but then not only that, like, I think maybe the reason that the poem is so impactful with people is that it's not just about women's safety, because that's one conversation, but it also goes into just like the cost of being a woman in society generally. And like, Jamila Jamil has this podcast that I'm obsessed with called I Weigh, and I've consumed a lot of that, and I think she's had a massive influence on my writing too. But she often talks about like how women, it's so much advertising is aimed at women, and actually women are the people who are kind of upholding capitalism in a way, because like we're made to buy more clothes or to um buy makeup or all of these things, which ultimately is to impress men. um and how we are paid less, but we actually pay into um the system more. And just how kind of messed up that is, that women are kind of exploited in that way by the system. And it was, I think, yeah, like I say, I think the reason that it's hit home is because it's kind of, it starts as one thing, then it's also like, and this and this and this and this. And if I was to write a poem about all the ills in the world, it would, for women facing, in various different countries, like, it would never end. Like, the poem is from a very specific lens, and it's a westernized white view really, but it's a small drop in the ocean of the many things that women face. But I think it's resonated because maybe it's just a to the point way of women hearing all the stuff that they've been thinking, you know?
I mean, there's no wonder it resonates with so many women of all colors and all over the world. I think all women would understand a portion of that. I mean, the opening, I think, was the bit that got me the most. And you've just spoken there about, looking at the park and looking at kids. And I have a 7 turning 8-year-old
Mm.
daughter and a 5-year-old son. And so I think that's what, there's so much of it to unpack and so much of it that resonates with me. But certainly that moment was in the poem itself as a standout moment for me, because I kind of thought, yeah, at what point like, looking at my 2 children, at what point does this change? And I'm looking at my daughter thinking, when do you start realizing that the world is different for you? Like the line, and you'll have to remind me of the line, but at what point does a park not just be for
Yeah,
play? And
yeah,
you
yeah,
think
yeah.
about, and I think about all the times that you're scared walking through a park, or you walk the long way because you don't want to walk through a park because it
Yeah.
would be deemed as dangerous once it's dark. And
Mm.
you know, it's just crazy. But
Mm.
there's so much to unpack in the poem, and honestly, literally nearly every line resonates with me. When did you kind of discover your talent for poetry?
Gosh, like, I think the long answer to that is that I've always kind of written things. Like, for me, I never had an intention of performing it. It was always just that my processing has been writing things down. Like, I think if I notice a lack of stopping and writing, if I'm not doing it, like, I think I can get quite overwhelmed by things. And unless I bring myself back to the present, and whether that's like journaling or something, that's how I process things. But I think for me, why I find poetry so satisfying is because you're taking big, overwhelming emotions and you're really trying to like funnel it down into a tangible line or two that like succinctly describes how you're feeling about things. So I think I've always found that an enjoyable process. Whether I'd have called it poetry or not, I don't know, but it's something that I'd always kind of done. And like being 16 and into like indie bands and stuff and like Arctic Monkeys and sitting in my room thinking that I was like a little Alex Turner talking about like not being able to get out of Oldham and stuff like that, which is where I'm from. I think it was like a romantic version of that. But I think for me it was I used to go to youth theatre. I used to go to youth theatre in Oldham, this place called Under Theatre Workshop, which is like a wonderful place. And why it was so brilliant was because it was a youth theatre, but it was very much about giving us voices as young adults, really. And Sarah is one of the I'd say she's like my mentor, but she was one of the writers and directors there. And we were doing this show about whether 16-year-olds should be able to vote. And she came up to me. She must have just seen something in me, and she came up to me and she was like, I think like she was like, have you heard of spoken word poetry? And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. And she was like, well, there's this poet, Holly McNish, and she's got a big YouTube following, and she's got this poem called Cupcakes on YouTube. Like, you should watch it. So she showed it me, and this poem is basically about like um this fascination. I think it's maybe changed slightly now, but I think while she was at university, there was this whole fascination of like nights out being like school uniform nights, and just how weird that is that we're wanting to keep young women like schoolgirls. And it was the first time that I had like heard poetry, and I was like, oh my God, like it resonates with me and it's cool. Like, I think I'd been studying like, you know, Shakespeare at
Yeah.
GCSE, which obviously like big up Shakespeare, love him now. But I think at the time I was just like,
We're not slagging off
I
Shakespeare.
can't. Yeah, I know he was good for a reason, right?
Let's not get
But
cancelled.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I like I could see of myself in that. But I think seeing Holly's stuff, I was like, wow, like it's so cool and it's so like rhythmic and musical almost, and but political. And I think, my mum's a teacher and my dad's a nurse, so I'd always been around like political conversations because it directly impacted their jobs. So I think I had all of these things, and then this kind of just brought it together. And then I went to drama school and I kind of dropped off a little bit. But then when I left drama school and I moved to London, drama school impacted my confidence quite a lot. And I felt like in order to try and get my confidence back, I wanted to do something that scared me. So I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to go to an open mic night and just like read a couple of poems just so that I can come away with a sense of achievement. And so I did that. And then they went quite well. And then I started like getting booked for gigs and stuff. And then it just kind of rolled along since then, really. And that was the start of like 2022. So it's been since then, really, that I've kind of been, you know, getting your first gig to do a poetry gig for like £25. You're like, oh my God, like someone values my work. Yeah, literally. So it's I've been doing it for a while. And like I say, this poem I wrote a year and a half ago maybe, and it's not the first time that I performed it, but just something about that video and the moment, maybe with everything that's going on in the world, I think it just kind of hit something. It struck a chord, and it's just kind of gone a bit mad, really.
Has your body ever done something weird or out of the norm? You've already went to the doctor, you've had your blood test, but you're still thinking, is this normal? Am I the only one that's dealing with this? Sometimes you just need to hear it from someone who actually gets it. And that's literally why we've created the House of Hormones Forum. Think your girls' group chat, but with an upgrade. The House of Hormones Forum is a safe space with zero judgment and a strong community of women who really get what you're going through because they're going through it too. We're talking PMS, mood swings, cycle changes, cravings, all of it. And the best part is you've got real support with the House of Hormones Forum. So whether you just want to vent or you've come to ask questions, come and join us. It's given science meets sisterhood, so come and join the conversation at the House of Hormones Forum. We've saved you a seat. www.thehouseofhormones.com and just click forum. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you that. So what has the reaction been? When did you kind of first notice that, wow, this really resonates with so many women?
Yeah. It's always like when I would perform it, I could always feel like a vibe shift in a room. Like I think, um, I could feel like for people in the room with me, I could feel that it had impact. I've
I
always
mean,
been,
like I said, I've heard it so many times. And
yeah.
say, honestly. I'm welling up,
Yeah.
and like it just gets me every time.
But you know what? Like, it's not the first poetry video that I've put onto Instagram, and I'm so reluctant to. I was like really quite bitter about it, like quite reluctant to try and engage in like the social media aspect of it because it is like putting your babies out there to be killed sometimes, right? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
work, and so many artists say this, like you work on this art that you're really proud of, and then you put it online, and because of algorithms or it's not clickbaity enough, people just don't engage with it. So then you might get like 10 likes, then you feel a bit shit about yourself. But so I kind of was reluctant to share things on there for that reason because I was like, that's not how this is meant to be consumed. It's for like live setting. But I think I went so I'm part of this spoken word night called Spit, which my friend Danny started, and now it's really taken off. It's becoming very popular. And we do this thing before the open mics, which is to have a sacrificial poet just to kind of like show that it's not that scary. So he asked me to do one. So I ended up doing At What Point? And it was filmed, whatever. And then I was in New York actually, funnily enough, I was with my friend. And whilst I was over there, Danny messaged me and he was like, "You need to get TikTok, like this is blowing up." And I was like, "I don't want TikTok." And he's like, "No, get it, because like it's blowing up." And then I think within a day and a half, it maybe had like 1 million views on there.
Wow.
And it was mad. Like I was watching it resonating with so many people and all the comments and stuff, and I really felt this duty to try and read all of the comments because I recognized that it was really resonating with people and that they were sharing like really personal things. And also, to be honest, like I was kind of terrified that it was going to end up in like an Andrew Tate sphere, and I wanted to kind of be ahead of that, like that narrative, I guess. So I was kind of walking around New York obsessively checking these comments and stuff, but it was overwhelmingly positive and like very moving. And it caught me off guard. I think I've said this, but like when you write a poem, or when I do anyway, like the first time I perform it, it's really nerve-wracking because like it's vulnerable and you don't know whether it's going to resonate with people and they might think it's a bit shit. But after you've done it a few times, like it's no longer yours anymore, and it's kind of I kind of
Yeah.
feel neutral about it. Like I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is a thing that I wrote and it's for you guys now. But I think because of the immediacy and of it being on a phone and people directly messaging me, suddenly I was like so aware of like how much it was resonating with people and people sharing their stories, specifically women. And it brought me right back to like why I had written it. And it was like grief. I was like sad and angry that like, whilst it was that validating in the sense of like people thinking that it was good, but also validating in the sense of I'm not the only person who feels this way.
Yeah.
It was also like, oh my God, we all feel this way. Like, what is happening? How are we all stuck in this? Like, how
Yeah.
devastating it is that so many people feel this way. And so it was a lot, like, but it's been above and beyond anything that I could expect. And like, then it kind of someone took it and put it onto LinkedIn where it blew up, and then someone took it and put it onto X where it blew up, and then someone took it and put it onto Instagram, and then it got shared by like Jamila Jamil and the Guilty Feminist podcast and all of the like, I mean Jamila Jamil, I was like, God, that's so crazy. She's the reason that I
Your
wrote
hero.
it. Yeah, yeah. So it's this little poem's had such a big journey, and then like 2 days ago I got invited onto Woman's Hour, which was nuts. Like, yeah, so
Wow.
I did that 2 days ago, and that was such like a pinch me moment. I was like, this is so funny that this little poem's just like taken me here. Like, it's great.
But it's interesting when you say that, like it's no longer yours, because it's kind of like a piece of music as well. Do you know, like it then becomes somebody's special song or a
Yeah,
poem that's shared between friends.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
maybe they really have suffered from a certain experience, and then it then becomes, or somebody who's never managed to speak about something that's happened to them
um,
or speak on their feelings, or has never really been able to think about how they feel about this, and you've
totally.
almost given them a voice.
I understand that, but I guess I feel like I'm a conduit almost, or like a bridge between what other women's work who I've consumed, like Bell Hooks or Jamila Jamil, or and they've graduated from other people's works. Like, I feel like maybe what I've been able to do is to put it into a package for people to consume, but like I wouldn't have got to these realizations without the work of so many women before me as well. Um, so it's like nice to be a part of that journey for everyone. But what you were saying about it being like people's favorite song or something, I think what kind of surprised me was like I think it's quite a dark poem. Like it's not dark, it's dark, but it's also validating and cathartic or whatever. So the fact that like people loved it is like really lovely. But like I think I first noticed it after it had gone viral originally. I came back to the UK and I had a gig, and like people had traveled like 2 hours just to come and see that poem. And I was like, and I wasn't intending to perform it, but I was like, oh God, like, might as well give you your money's worth if you've come this far. So I did it at the end of the set, and it was like a temperature change in the room, and I was like, oh wow, this must be how like I don't know Adele feels.
Yeah.
Suddenly like before it even started, they'd like put the cameras up and stuff. I was like, oh gosh, okay. Um, but one of the things that I was navigating after it was like, how do I keep this momentum going, or like, are people gonna? I don't know. Do I have to be a top content creator now? Because I was like, God, I'm on social media enough. I don't need that to be a thing as well. But and also I think I worried that people would get bored of it or whatever. But my friend Harry Baker, who's an amazing poet, kind of said to me, the thing with poetry is that it does kind of lean more towards music in terms of people want to hear it again and again and again because
Yeah.
it's meaningful to them, as opposed to like comedy where like once you've heard that joke, it's like I've heard that now, I need another joke.
Move on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's been quite nice, is that, oh no, people want to come and hear that poem because that's the reason that they found out about me, and that's they want to come with their friend to experience it together. That's been really lovely.
It is also in your delivery. Like there's
Mm,
something quite amazing about watching you. For anyone who's listening that doesn't know you and doesn't know your history, because obviously I know you're also an incredible actress.
mm.
But just give us a little roundup of you and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm first and foremost an actor, I guess. I again, I went to youth theatre, so I've been doing that since I was a kid, and then went to drama school, and then about 6 months after that, I got a job in Outlander, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like a huge Stars TV channel show based on books, and I played the role of Lizzie Weems, who is like the maid to the main family in that from the age of 22 to 29. Like I've just wrapped on that now, so it's been a big chunk of my life doing that. um, and I guess, what that allowed me was to have space and time to focus on writing as well. Like, I think if I was still in the position that I was when I first left drama school, which was trying to juggle 5 jobs, I'd have no space to think anything or to, jot down poems. It really did afford me that other side of myself. Um, but also I think sometimes with the spoken word, what the acting background allows is the confidence, or not confidence necessarily because I'm still very nervous, but the I've stood on stages before, and I have learned how to learn a monologue or to take up space in that way. And
Yeah.
I do think spoken word is this marriage between poetry and music and theatre. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of all three because it's rhythmic like music, it's poetical like poetry, and it's about the performance. And I think that really itches my brain in like a really satisfying way. And I think when I'm performing things, I get get a bit for free really in terms of having the theatre background. Um, but also to the point of like the performance of this poem and to my other poems as well, like what I write is provocative and it's uncomfortable to listen to at times, particularly if you're a man, maybe. But I'm also super aware of like I never want to feel like I'm like shaming men or like flagellating men, because we're all victims of this patriarchal system that we're in. Like I when I'm performing, I try to do it neutrally and like factually and from my experience, as opposed to being like, and then you did this to me and then you did this to me, because like ultimately we want to call people in, right? And we all want to work together. There's like a Tim Minchin quote that really stood out to me, that he was asked why there is such a divide between young men and women in terms of like 16-year-old boys are kind of moving towards the right and 16-year-old girls are moving towards the left. And he said, I think the issue is that like there's lots of conversations around pride that are happening in terms of like, you know, proud to be a woman, proud to be queer, proud to be from the global majority. And actually, young boys aren't really seeing spaces of pride that they can go to. And so
Yeah.
they're moving towards people who will give them that, like Andrew Tate or Donald Trump. And actually, it's causing this chasm. And so, whilst I think women are angry and we have a right to be angry and we have a right to feel all of those things, like I don't ever want my writing to be at the cost of shaming other people. Like I want it to open conversations as opposed to pushing people away.
I know you know about the House of Hormones and some of the work that we do, but we have a campaign going at the moment where it's all about including men.
Mm,
It sounds a weird thing to say, to talk about inclusivity in terms
yeah,
of men, because but but we do see that a lot of men have a lot of questions and are either scared that they might get their head bitten off if they asked a question about our
yeah,
cycle, or about these things, or they're scared to look silly, like they don't know. And I think it's a really interesting topic. If we can kind of get that point across to men, like, look, the research hasn't been done. Nobody knows this, so no question is stupid.
yeah.
And come into the conversation. We want you to be our allies.
Mm,
Like, women aren't trying to rise up and, get rid of the shackles and to like be against men. Like, we
no.
love men.
And that's why your like work is so important, is because you're so right. Like I think women aren't even able to have those conversations within themselves sometimes. And we've spoken about how like only now at the age of 29 and am I getting to a place where I can talk about like my experience of the healthcare system with
Yeah.
other women, because I was like ashamed of certain things, or like I didn't know what was going on in my body. And because we're taught to be ashamed of these things. And you know, I have only really, the men that I love, I've only really had positive experiences with
Yeah.
them when I've shared things with them, and they do want to understand and they are caring. Um, so yeah, like I never ever want to be, I mean, it's that classic thing, isn't it? Feminism is about equality for everyone, right? I think people get scared that it's about men becoming irrelevant, and it's absolutely not. Like some
No.
of some of my best friends are men, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well, and this is what I
like
always say. I've got three brothers. I've got a son. I've got
yeah,
a husband.
they're
Like, I'm
great.
not like, we love
No.
men.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And that's kind of what I say. It's like I don't hate men, I just love women. And that's what I want to celebrate. And yeah.
you're basically just speaking the truth. I think it's really difficult, actually, and I'd love to know your take on this, because things have changed, which is great. Things are changing. It's a slow process, but they are. And sometimes men are kind of maybe sick of hearing about it, or they just think, oh, what would your answer be to someone who's just kind of like, oh, are we still banging on about this? Like,
We it's not just about having equal pay, right? It's all the subtle things that we don't even realize that we're conditioned to see. And I have a poem about consent, and it kind of talks about the gray area around consent. And I'm basically saying like you can ask me for my consent, but that is not taking into consideration the context of how you're asking me, the power dynamics, whether I feel comfortable or not, how I've been conditioned to be a people pleaser. I wrote that because so often I have said yes to things and done something reluctantly and really regretted it, and then I've come away from it and I've been like, hang on a second, I said yes to that thing. But I had to realize, oh, it's like all of the unsaid things that we're not talking about. So it's not just do we have equal pay, it's how we treat a woman when she enters the workspace, or how we feel with women in power, or like, even myself, like I still notice things within myself where I've been conditioned to, like, if I go into a space and there's loads of women, I feel anxious that they're going to be horrible to me. And like my go-to is the competitive thing that I've been conditioned to, as opposed to thinking, oh, they're allies. And I just don't think men have that in the same way. Like I don't know. And there's a quote that I'm gonna absolutely butcher, but I think it's true. It's like if someone else's freedom, if someone else's liberty threatens yours, is it liberty that you're interested in, or is it like your status quo and your comfort? I think, if you're concerned about, queer people not having the same rights, or women not having the same rights, or trans people not having the same rights, what is that about? Is it, if you speak of like free speech and all of those things, is it that you want freedom for everyone, or is it that you just want your own freedom and you
Yeah,
don't want to have to compromise on anything? And I think
yeah,
it's so true, because I think
so true.
that's what we're seeing now, isn't it? It's people are now being asked to compromise on certain things, and they're not willing to do it because, especially if they've been in privilege, it means that they're going to have to accept a little bit less because they've always been on top, right?
So, you've got a doctor's appointment coming up, and you're just trying to figure out what the hell is going on with your body. You need our free symptom tracker. It's like the receipts folder for your hormones. You can track the bloat, the mood swings, the brain fog, the mystery acne, and then roll it all into your next appointment like a hormonal pro. No more being brushed off or told it's all in your head. You've got the data. Download it for free today from our website and start advocating for yourself. www.thehouseofhormones.com and head to our free download section. So lovely to hear you talk about this, because obviously you're a bit younger than me, and I think
Mm.
when women do get a bit older, like they do just give less of a shit. And I spoke to Reshma Saujani yesterday, and we literally talked about this topic of conditioning that you spoke of, and
Mm.
the opinions that we have of women. And again, you've put it so nicely of how you're talking about how you still find yourself doing this. And I'm sure anyone listening could literally think to themselves, oh yeah, I did that today, or
Mm.
oh, and you start, but it's the awareness of it and try
Yeah,
how we change it.
totally. And it's stuff like, I had like a hospital appointment yesterday, and I woke up in the morning and I was so tired and I was so anxious about it. And yet I still woke up early to put makeup on. I was like, for who? For who? Like, no one cares. But I was like, well, if I look awful, like maybe they won't listen to me in the same way. Or, you know, it's just like so ridiculous. Or I did, like I said, I went on BBC Woman's Hour the other day, and like it's being shared online, and it's doing really well. And funnily enough, the poem that originally went viral, and I'm like, God, if I knew that it was going to go viral, I'd have put a bit more effort in how I looked. Like just these internal criticisms that I still have about myself, that I can't celebrate. I can't just celebrate what I've achieved, because I am still picking myself apart. Like I'm
Yeah.
picking apart my outfit, or I'm picking apart like my weight, or like whatever. Like
Yes.
just these things that are so in here that they get in the way of like any achievement. It's like the invisible shackles, to kind of use what you said. Like there are so many things, and that's why, in the poem I say, sometimes I wonder who I'd be if I existed just for me. Like
I
who
love
like
that
who would
line.
that
I
version
love
of me
that line.
be, like, without at every moment my taste being chosen by someone else, or feeling like I have to wear this, or be into this kind of music, or whatever, ultimately for attractability, for worth. Like, yeah, we're not really free, but that probably goes to for everyone as well. We're all like, at the behest of what's cool and what's fashion. But I think
Yeah.
women experience it in a more pressurized way.
Now that you've had such success with this poem, and obviously you've noticed how much it's affecting women and
Mm,
they need that voice. So, what you're doing, the reason you've had such a reaction is because women need this voice. Women resonate so much with that. Have you thought, is that putting the pressure on to then do some more?
oh yeah, I don't know.
You're making
I'm so reluctant to become this, like, God, this voice of women, because like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I guess, like, maybe why it speaks to people is because I I really try to lean into my vulnerability. The wankiest thing I've ever said. But I will what I will say with that is, like, for me, the things that touch me is like honesty in other people's writings, and them allowing themselves to be a little bit naked in front of us, right?
yeah.
And that's where my what I have always done with my writing for myself is like, because it is so personal, I can't write any other way. Like, and I find it selfishly very cathartic. Like, it's like a problem shared is a problem halved, right? Like, some of the things that I talk about, I was so ashamed of for so long, and I couldn't
Yeah.
speak to anyone about them. But performing it that first time and not dying, and in fact, people coming up to me and being like, I've also experienced that, for me, in a very selfish way, was very healing for me. So like, this is like my therapy, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing it. And maybe people will resonate with it, maybe they won't. Like, I'm already, it's the bigger it's got, the more criticism, I guess, it's opening itself up for, specifically from people who aren't willing to have these conversations yet, who are trying to, and that's been women too, I might add. Like,
Tell us.
well,
What
there's
type,
just
give me an example of the criticism. I'm
just
baffled. I'm like,
yeah,
why? What?
well, I've
Who?
had quite a few people saying like, this is just the woke brigade going on again, and like, women are
Um,
equal now, like, what are you talking about? Or like, men,
yeah,
do you have to get subscripted to go and fight in wars? Like, all this sort of stuff. And you're just sitting there and you're like, you do realize who made all of these rules, though, don't you? You do realize that it's still the patriarchy. Like, I think this is it. I'm not attacking men, I'm attacking the system. And yeah, and so there's that. And also, people using some of my poems to further their rhetoric, i.e., anti-trans stuff, because I have a poem about the ladies lose and celebrating that. They're like, see, this is why this is a protected space. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying at all. Please don't. Like, I'm very pro-trans and pro-trans rights always. So that, might people might not like poems that I write about certain things, and that's fine. But like, I think you have to write for yourself ultimately, and you have to try and stay with your integrity. And hopefully that's what's resonating with people, because I think the moment that I start trying to feed the TikTok algorithm, or like try and second guess what's going to work, like, I'm well aware that this is not going to happen again. Like, I can't chase this because it's a fluke that it's happened, a very
yeah,
happy fluke. But if I try to write something that blows up in the same way, I just won't succeed in that, I guess. Yeah. So I just have to kind of try and stay true to the things that I want to write about, and stay in tune with how I feel about the world.
yeah. I mean, as much as I don't want to put any pressure on you, I'm about to put a lot of pressure. No, but as much as I don't want to put any pressure on you, but you obviously have a way of taking something that we, like you said, that we all feel, because so
Mm,
many women have come to you going, oh, and you've got a beautiful way of putting that into something that's really easy to understand, because
mm,
I think a lot of women suffer from feeling really misunderstood. And this just turned it into art, and it turned so
yeah.
much of how we feel into something beautiful and really easy to understand. Next poem that
Mm.
my second favorite poem of
Ah.
yours, well, but equally favorite. But the what happens in the ladies lose, and
Mm-hmm.
I love this. I mean, this is obviously a different atmosphere. So this one
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes me giggle. It kind of makes
Yeah.
me, like, I love it. And again, you just really got the concept there so
Mm.
nicely, and you've
Yeah.
just nailed it. I wonder if you would tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
So exactly that. Like, I was so aware that, like, I have a joke that if you piss me off, I'll write a poem. Like, I find it really hard to write when I'm happy. I find it really hard to do that. Like,
That's
I
how Taylor
yeah.
Swift, like all of her exes, and
Yeah.
Adele, all of
Yeah.
their like
Yeah.
partners, be
I
like,
know, and
oh,
then when they're in relationships, you don't hear from them for a while. It's kind of similar. But and I was just aware that I was like, kind of, talking about all the difficulties of being a woman. And whilst it is difficult, like, I love it. Like, there's so many things that I love about being a woman that, like, I'm sad that men don't get to experience. Like, that we will sit and we will talk about our feelings and make space for each other. And, you know, that love, the love that I've experienced from women throughout my life, particularly throughout my mid 20s and into my 30s, has gotten me through everything. And I think I wanted to write something that was like a celebration of that, and the setting of the ladies lose felt like the perfect place to do it,
it's the
because
perfect place to do anything.
yeah, Exactly. And I think again, I think I'd heard someone talking about how like the women's lose is like the backstage of like, you know, it's the only place really where you're not other than at home maybe, but where you're not considering a male gaze on you. You're just kind of it you get a breather from like being out in the real world, so to speak.
Yeah.
What's quite funny about this poem is that I had written it and I had called it Ode to the Ladies Lose. And then I went to see this poet, Georgie Jones, who was headlining, and she got on stage and she's like, "So this is my poem, Ode to the Ladies Lose." And I was like, "Oh no, like that was the name of my one." And she's brilliant and we're really good friends now. But I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to change the name of my poem. So I changed mine to Eau de Toilette instead. And now she's really
Oh.
envious of that one. But what was really amazing was like when I shared this, I think it was like on TikTok or something. And it was so funny because in the comments someone was like, Georgie Jones already has this poem. And I was like, doesn't that just speak to everything? Me and Georgie are friends and she loves my poem and I love her poem. And we both joke about how like every woman probably has an ode to the ladies lose within them. Um
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually there was Georgie was headlining in another gig and she reached out to me and she was like, I would love to collaborate our poems together. So we, as like a surprise, we had like kind of edited our poems to fit together, and then we performed it. And it's like one of my favorite things that I've done because it speaks to the camaraderie of women and
I love that.
women being pitted together, but actually showing that it's like, now we love each other, and this is like a celebration of that. So that's why I love this poem.
Oh, well, I think you should dedicate it to her today in case
Ah,
she's
I will.
in, because
Yeah.
we are going to get a little
Hmm.
sneak reading of it. Before we go into the reading of Eau de Toilette,
Hmm.
um, is that what's next for you? What's coming up? What are you up?
Oh,
Have you been feeling like your hormones are running the show? Been there? Same. Our ebook is your no BS glow up guide to hormonal health. We're talking facts, expert advice, and real life hacks, all in one gorgeously written download. So whether you're dealing with PMS, perimenopause, or you're just tired of Googling what the hell is wrong with me, grab your copy now at www.thehouseofhormones.com, and we've tagged it below. We've got your back.
so I have various gigs that are here, there, and everywhere. So I'm doing one in Brighton in next week. I'm headlining a night called Raining Women. Holly McNish is doing the night before. So I got that. I'm working on a book, so I'm being published by Burning Eye, who are like my dream like poetry publisher. They specialize in spoken word, and they've already published like tons of my favorite poets. Harry Baker and Holly McNish being two of them, and Georgie is also getting published at the same time, which is really nice. Um, and yeah, and then trying to gigging more in London. Like I say, I'm part of this spoken word night in London called Spit Nights, so I'm usually knocking about there anyway. But I know that I've got a couple of more headlines for them coming up too. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just want to carry on doing this. To be honest, book me. um,
What would be
I would.
your what would be your ideal, like your
Oh
favorite
God.
favorite acting role?
Oh gosh. I think I'm ready to do a bit of comedy. Like, definitely. I've been doing a period drama for the past 6 years. But like my favorite shows are like Dairy Girls, or I loved Fresh Meat and those kind of, yeah, or like Big Boys. Those kind of Channel 4 comedies are so good.
Yeah,
I'd love to do something like that. And
yeah.
you helped me with a self-tape with your lovely Belfast accent.
Belfast accent.
Yeah, it's good that. Um,
I
yeah,
should get you actually. I should get you to do the next reading in a Belfast accent.
absolutely not. No, thank you. I don't want them to revoke my recently received Irish passport, and they would do that. Um, yeah, yeah.
It's been amazing having you on
Oh,
today.
thank you for
Thank you
having me.
so much for coming
Yeah.
on. I am obsessed with your work. I'm your
Well,
biggest
I'm
fan.
such a
You
fan of
know.
your work as well. Like we've
Uh,
not even gassed you up enough. Your work is amazing, and I'm really
oh,
grateful to have come across the stuff that you're doing as well.
well, we will share your work for the end until the end of time because we're. But would you please do us the honor by ending today's podcast by giving us another little treat reading?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Um, Okay. I have fallen in love with so many women in the toilets of clubs and bars and restaurants. I've put the world to rights with strangers I'll never know the names of, these drunken angels in the refuge of the restroom. If heaven has gates, may they be adorned with a golden F or the outline of a figure in dress. I've pressed my lips against the temple of a girl gone existential as she stares upon her own reflection and projects the universal question, am I good enough? Tears tracking down her face, I replace with compliments from other women who came before me, who've stood where I stand now in high heels and trainers, these feminist trailblazers. You've got this, girl, or you're amazing, or your tits look fucking great in that. And for a moment, we're all equal. And for a moment, we all mean it. A backstage world where women can breathe without performing for the eyes who decide how we're seen. And there's no competition. We're joint in our mission to gas each other up. A brief interlude to debrief and collude, swap war stories in lose and check in with each other. A quick wee in therapy, that's two birds with one stone. In the cubicle next to me, that's two birds and one stoned. I can hear them chatting shit and I am fucking here for it. It can be chaos, it can be cathartic, it can be the best place to be at a party, a much needed time out overlooked by London's time out. And if you know, you know. And we all know why it takes a woman so long to go to the toilet. It's because it's so much more than a toilet. It's a place for her to let her hair down, just for a second, before having to collect herself again and carry the weight of the world in her clutch or her handbag. We'll top her up when the world tears her down, make sure her makeup is in place so she can bear to face it again. That's why the place is so packed and the queues are so long. Our bladders may be weak, but my God, the vibes are strong.
Oh, I love it so much. I love it so much. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. What a dream.
If you enjoyed this episode today, don't forget to like and subscribe to the House of Hormones podcast. Your support really does help us reach more people and spread the word about women's health. If you want to stay connected, follow us on our social media. And here's something really important. We're on a mission to secure more funding for women's health initiatives. Sign our government petition today and help us amplify our voices for better healthcare resources and support. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for being part of our journey. We can't wait to see you in the next episode.